Good morning. We're live on Augment Your Week. It's great to be with you again this morning. Coming to you from Huntsville, Utah. We're looking at Pine View Reservoir. The lake is frozen and it's covered with snow. We got out there early this morning and took a picture of it. It's just gorgeous. Winter is setting in. Got the snow blower all ready to go, and it's on a trickle charge, so I can just fire it up and make it happen. Wow. I was looking at pictures yesterday with Ramona of last summer and some of the fun activities we did as a family. And I tell you, I'm already ready for summer, I think. How about you? Well, we're looking forward to being with you this morning and sharing some principles. We're going to give everybody just a chance to log on. It's early on a Monday morning. It takes just a couple of minutes to get everybody connected, and I don't want to jump into this too quickly. I just wanted to start this morning by sharing with you that I've got a head cold this morning and feeling just a little dingy. But it's interesting that when we pressed live, I just felt alive. If I start to wane at all, you just know what it is, but I'm going to push through this because this is such a critical message for this time of year. Many of you are in the middle of Hanukkah. Some are getting ready to celebrate Christmas. We've all got New Year's coming. This is a time of reflection. This is a time of considering our lives and where we are and where we'd like them to be. And I remember, and I've shared this with you, that when I did the rewrite on Today I Begin a New Life, which was after speaking in Coronado at the Genshai Master Retreat. The book was going to go to print the next Monday. We stopped the presses. I spent the whole week doing a rewrite, and I had to go back through all of the processes and editing and laying out, etc. And I didn't make it out till January. I think this was in November when this occurred. There were several things that were added to the book, and this happens to be one of them. It's an area, Today I Begin a New Life, Intentional Creation, Og Mandino for the 21st Century. Wonderful letter from Betty Mandino in the beginning of this book. Betty sits on our board of directors. Incredible human being. This is one of those pieces that got added in that last week of the rewrite. It's called gratitude. And so many of us are having a challenge being grateful when our circumstances just aren't that favorable. And I want to give you some principles this morning to help process through this so that we can get on the other side, because when we are grateful, there's something that happens. The gratitude flow, that when we're in that space, it grounds us present in the now, where our dreams are actually created, where we actually live. The great challenge is that we spend most of our time in our minds. Now, this is like a broken record for some. Yes. But self-improvement, remember, isn't being able to intellectualize a concept. Well, I understand that. Okay, let's go to the next thing. Self-improvement is what we've actually chosen to apply in those pivotal moments of our lives when we're thinking about what's happening in our life. Do we go into lack, less than, frustration, overwhelm, resistance, resentment, rebellion, or do we go into gratitude? That's a choice, and in that pivotal moment, that choice can make all the difference between us living in frustration and living in creation, living in comparison and living in creation. What an interesting moment for us. So if you're tempted, just be with me for a moment, because I would love for all of us this week, because there's this week and then the next week, and then we're into holidays, right? And some of you are already into holidays with Hanukkah. Let's pause for a moment and examine a critical truth. I remember it's at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm exhausted. And I'm writing about fantasy and catastrophe. And I've been writing about secret desires and real intentions, about the need for forgiveness. All of these things were not in the original draft over 4 years, this whole section. Then I came to gratitude. And I want to just read to you these first two paragraphs, and I want you to smile. Let's just see how often we do this. When we're engaged in fantasy or in other forms of counterfeit pleasure designed to anesthetize reality. Now, we know from our last two augments that the brain seeks pleasure when it's trying to avoid pain, right? So here we've got painful things happening in our lives. We don't like them. So we go into fantasy, and there we get norepinephrine, that very euphoric drug released, and it gives us pleasure. So we go to fantasy to anesthetize the pain in our reality. We can get very unrealistic perspectives of life in that fantasy. In fantasy, no one has morning breath or body odor. No one passes gas or burps. There's always oodles of money and no bills to pay. You can tell this is late at night and the filters are off, right? No work needs to be done, no schedule to keep. We never get ill or have any accidents. We never get discouraged, frustrated, disillusioned, or angry. While in fantasy, our car never breaks down. We never have to work late. Nothing ever gets spilled. Everyone gets along. There's always love at home. Committed relationships are filled with courtship, romance, intimacy. Babies never poop, throw up, or cry. Everyone does what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. There is never an emergency or imposition. The sun is always shining. Everyone drives courteously. This last weekend, we were engaged in cleaning up some of the last messes from the move. And one of those, with this Wells Cargo 16-foot enclosed trailer that the Can-Am goes into, right? Well, we've got these moving trucks, but there are certain things they can't carry. So we're going to put all of those in our trailer. And one of the trucks finally was able to move out of the way, and it was time to pull the trailer into our driveway. Now, our early Ramona said, remember to put up the tailgate. I was busy. My mind was preoccupied. I pulled the truck forward, and as I started to, not jackknife it, but put it into a position where I could get the trailer into the driveway, I heard this horrific crunch. And I went, the tailgate. Oh, please don't be too bad. Well, I went out. And not only had I ruptured the trailer, I mean, broke through the ribs, the metal, I had crunched the tailgate. To fix the trailer was $2,500. To fix the truck is $2,000. A $4,500 mistake. Now, they're insured. We also know that game. I had a car we recently sold that had a little fender bender, just a little scrape. I hit a car in a parking lot. I happened to be one of my employees, bless his heart. Got his car fixed, got my car fixed, filed an insurance claim to cover that. And it shows up on the Carfax when I go to sell it. And even though I've got pictures that it's nothing, there's nothing structural, it's all cosmetic. But it still caused a tremendous reduction in the value of the truck. So I thought, I'm just going to pay for this. Well, here's a pivotal moment. Everybody been in one of these? When something happens that you don't want to have happen, or you can't afford to have happen, or it's terribly inconvenient to have happen. If we had one of those moments, that's our pivotal moment. What's our choice? Do we get frustrated? Do we get angry? Or do we become responsible and accountable? And it's just part of life. Well, I'm not always making the right decision. I'm sharing this one with you because I did, and I got responsible. It's my fault. She did share with me that the gate was down, the tailgate was down, and I forgot. If I'd have remembered, I'd put up the tailgate, it wouldn't have been a problem, but I didn't. I was in a hurry, and it really was my fault. Now, it wasn't pleasant. It's not fun. It's my new truck. But it is what it is. And therein lies the secret. Number one, that when we go into our mind to escape, We know that we have when a life circumstance creates frustration. We are not living present. But Dave, that doesn't make any sense. Things happen. Yes. If we're present in the now, living life, things are going to happen. That's life. If we're living in our mind, all of those things are a distraction, an interruption. When in fact, this is life. This is tangible reality. And this is in our mind. It only exists in our mind. So the question becomes, how do we fight past this? In this chapter, I wrote this. Being grateful for what we have is difficult when reality doesn't stack up to our expectations. Remember the definition of expectation, concrete condition for happiness? When we're in our mind, we're creating those expectations. Instead of experiencing joy in the journey, we can feel overwhelmed and live life filled with frustration, resentment, or anger. And here are the questions. Is it wrong to want more? Just write that down. Yes or no? Is it wrong to want more? I would submit to you, the answer is no. Is it okay if we want our dreams to come true? Of course, yes. Is it wrong to have big dreams? No. Is it important that we are grateful for what we have? Yes. How do we reconcile these conflicting desires and requirements? How do we resolve this? Start by taking a personal inventory of your relationships, finances, education, health, career or business, natural gifts, talents, and skills. What is? This is the clay you've been given to craft your life. This is your unique clay. We don't get someone else's clay, and they don't get ours. At first, this can be a little painful if our reality, our clay, differs greatly from our expectations. Remember, what is exists in tangible reality. So everybody got the cure for this? We're supposed to want more. More of what? More of our clay. When we finally make the decision to make that list of all the things we have in our lives that we can be grateful for, that's our life. Not in comparison to our neighbor or somebody else on a sales team or someplace else in a magazine or on television. No, our clay. Then we get to do the one thing that changes everything. We take our clay and we create a millimeter and we celebrate. We create another millimeter and we celebrate. Is it okay to have big dreams? Yes. And between where we are and that big dream is just a series of millimeters. It's okay to want more? Yes. Taking what we have and creating the most we possibly can with the clay we've been given. And here's the principle. When this is our focus, and granted, if we've had a lot of expectations and we really see ourselves here and we're really here, in fact, parenthetically, a lot of us are very frustrated because we kind of walk through life thinking we're someplace other than we actually are. When we go through and make a list of debts or income or assets or whatever it might be, the reality of it's hard to look at it because it's different than where our mind wants us to be. When Paul says we all want to start, we just don't want to start where we are. But when we grasp this principle and we can be grateful for what we have and feel a fiduciary responsibility to take our clay and create the most we can with it. and we begin the journey of creating and celebrating, we are finally in forward motion. That should sound familiar from our last two augments. And when we're in forward motion, providence moves. Providence moves. I read this to you the other day from W.H. Murray, Scottish explorer. The moment we definitely commit oneself, we own this clay, we're going to move it a millimeter and celebrate it, then providence moves too, raising to one's favor all manner of unforeseen instances and meetings and material assistance no man could have dreamt could come his way. We want magic to happen. It doesn't come from living in fantasy, holding life hostage and continually being frustrated. We cannot fantasize our way into the future and create a better one. What we can do is get a clear vision of the dream we want to create and start where we are with the clay we've been given. But I don't like my clay, Dave. But it's your clay. And you know what? If we're looking everywhere else, we can't see the gifting in this clay. But when we start to maximize it, that's when we start to find our uniqueness and our gifting and the challenges that we've faced and overcome and the courage that we've created. And all of a sudden we're moving closer and closer, and it starts to speed up because we're grateful for the clay. We create and celebrate. Another form of gratitude is that celebration for what we now have created. Create again and celebrate, create and celebrate. And providence moves too. Promise. You're given more clay. It's magical. This is really the law of abundance. That doesn't happen vivid visualization. Yes, we visualize our dream and we visualize the next step and we get an inspired idea and act on it. But the law of abundance is taking what you have, being grateful for it, deeply grateful, and then taking it and creating a little bit more with it and celebrating, and then a little bit more. But Dave, this takes forever. No, it does not. Because once you start moving from where you are, you finally can engage providence. That's a promise. And when it's engaged, creation of your dreams speed up to their fastest possible pace. People come into your life. Doors are open that were otherwise not open. They're not open when we're in our mind in fantasy, waiting for that to happen. It's when we're in forward motion. So let us make that inventory this holiday season. Instead of lamenting what we don't have, let's be grateful to just be here with COVID, to have survived, to made it this far. We've made it. We're almost at the end of 2020. Let us have a 2020 vision of where we really are. And let us focus on taking that and creating with it. And seeing if we can't, in fact, engage providence and begin to see those miracles in our life that our heart tells us is possible. Yes, you're supposed to want more. More of your clay, not somebody else's. Your clay. Everybody have a wonderful day. We'll be back with you next Monday.